All right, so today I'm going to show you how to create a 100% AI automated social media system. So the way this is going to work is you're going to send something to just a Slack channel. Maybe it's a URL of an article. Hit send in that Slack channel, and it's going to start this automation that you're seeing on my screen in Gumloop. And then from that single URL, what this automation is going to do is create a post for LinkedIn, a post for Twitter, a post for Instagram, and an image all based on that article. Then it's going to take the output of those posts and then put it into an Airtable database for you so you can review and edit it in your own voice. All right, let's do a quick demo and then I'll show you how to set this up step by step. So this is going to be triggered in Slack. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to send a URL of an article to my Slack channel. This one is about new tools for building agents in OpenAI. And then that's going to start the trigger inside of Gumloop. I'm just going to run this automatically, and I'll show you my Airtable database right now is blank. And what's happening in the background is Gumloop is taking that Slack message, it's extracting the message, and then it's going to use an AI web research agent to go out on the internet and read and summarize that article that I sent into Slack. And once the AI web research agent is done, it's going to send it to all of my little AI Ask AI writer nodes over here. And these are going to write specific social media posts for these specific platforms. So I have a LinkedIn writer over here. I've got a Twitter or X writer over here and an Instagram writer as well. And not only that, it's going to generate a high quality AI image that I can then put into Canva and resize and then attach it to these different platforms. All right, so you can see my web research agent is done. Now it's going to pass on its findings to all of my different Ask AI nodes as well. Here you can see it's generating the high quality image. All right, so it's generated the image. Now it said that it successfully wrote this to Airtable. So if I go into my Airtable database, we can see a couple of things. So I've got the URL to the article. Okay, so this is what started off the whole thing here. So this is the article that triggered the automation. This is what I sent into my Slack channel over here. So we're storing the URL. Then we have a summary of the article. Okay, so this is the AI that went out to the URL, read the article, and then generated a summary for us so that we could feed this into a LinkedIn writer. So we've got an automated LinkedIn post here. We've got an automated Twitter or X post over here, and then another one for Instagram. Not only that, it's going to use Dolly to create an image that, again, you can put this into Canva and you can resize for the different platforms. And so this can really help to automate and streamline your social media system. Of course, I would encourage you to edit these and put it in your own voice so it sounds more natural, but you can see how quick and effective this system can be. All right, just a quick overview of this flow. So I'm using Gumloop for my automation here. And again, we're starting with a Slack trigger. So you can just send, in this example, a URL of an article that you want to post about on social media. And then Slack is going to kick everything off. So we're going to send that message first to an AI web research node. And what this node is going to do, it's going to go out on the internet, read the content of the article, and then create a summary of that article. Then we're going to take the output of this research node, so the actual summary of the article, and we're going to feed it into each of our agents over here, which is a LinkedIn writer, a Twitter writer, and an Instagram writer. So it's going to use that context of the article to create the post for these different platforms. And then separately, to create the image, first we need to create the prompt for the image node. So I'm taking the summary of the article and I'm feeding it into a different Ask AI node here. And I'm asking it to create a prompt for the image generator based on the context of the article. And then I'm feeding that output, right, the actual prompt, into the generate high quality image AI node in Gumloop. So this will create the image based on the prompt that the AI created, based on the summary of the article. And then you can see at the top, I'm using an extract data node here. And the reason I'm doing that is because when Slack sends in the message, It includes information other than just the URL, but here I want to extract the URL on its own because with all of these outputs, we were going to write this, as we saw, into Airtable. So that extract data is going to feed into this article URL, and then we have all of the other outputs from those nodes that we're going to write directly to Airtable. All right, so I'm going to start first by creating a new base or a new database inside of Airtable because, again, we're writing all of the output to Airtable. So I'm going to start with a blank base, and we can call this whatever you want. All right, so what fields are we going to use? So I always liked by deleting these default fields in here. So the first bit of info that we're going to take in is the URL of the article. Because again, this is triggering by me just sending URLs of news articles into Slack. So we want to capture that. So I'm going to change this first one from name to URL, and then from single line text to URL as well. So now we've got our first column here. Then we're going to have the AI go out, read that article, and create an article summary. So I'm going to create another field here, call it article summary, and I'm going to do a long text and then create that one. And now we just need the fields for the specific platform. So this is going to be the LinkedIn post, and this is just an example. Obviously, you can use whatever platforms you want. So let's create another long text for LinkedIn, and then we can duplicate this one, and we'll edit this one. So this will be for Twitter, X, whatever you like to call it here. And then we'll do another one for Instagram. So I'm going to duplicate this one again. So we've got our Instagram posts, our LinkedIn, and our Twitter posts here. And then we just want to capture the image as well from Gumloop, which is using Dolly to create that. But it outputs that actually as a URL and not an attachment. So for my last field, it's going to be named image, and I'm going to select that field as a URL. And now our database inside of Airtable is all set up. All right, let's create this flow now inside of Gumloop. And I do prefer Gumloop to pretty much all of the other AI automation platforms out there, and I've tried them all. So I'm in my hub. I'm going to do a new flow here. And what we need to think about first, of course, is how are we going to start this automation, right? How does it actually start? So we need a trigger. And this is just the example that I'm going with, but I'm going to take this as a Slack message. Okay. So we want to read a Slack channel. So I'm going to drag the Slack message reader onto my canvas here. And if you haven't connected your Slack account to Gumloop yet, make sure to do that. It's single sign-on. It's really quick. Then you're going to want to select the channel that you want this to go through. I have a Gumloop demo channel, so I'm going to use that as well. And then for message information, let's put this at message. Oh, I've got to activate the flow as a trigger. So make sure to toggle that onto yes. That's going to collapse some of the fields. Message information will be messages. We can ignore the bot message for now. And we've got Gumloop demo up here. Let's also rename this to social media system, YouTube. I'm going to save my flow here. So now we've got the flow running, or we've got the flow started, and we've got our Slack message reader as the trigger. And we can test this to make sure it's grabbing from Slack just by running. And now what it's going to do is it's going to take the last message that I sent into the Gumloop demos channel. So you can see this over here. And if you click on see all inputs and outputs, and I come to output and messages, what you can see is it's got the message from Mike at the date and the time. It's got the thread ID, and it's got this hyperlinked, right? So this is the actual link that we want, but we can see that the Slack message node is working. But this is going to lead us to our next step. And I want to extract just this URL, right? Because eventually we're going to have to fill Airtable with the URL itself, but we can see Slack is not just outputting the URL itself. It's outputting all of this other information. So we need to get just the URL out of this message. And for that, I am going to use a new node and come back to my node library, and I'm going to use the extract data node. So I'm going to select this, put it on my canvas over here, And then let's configure this one. So what I want to do is pass the message from Slack into the text input over here. And so the first thing we need to do is add the data, right? What data do we want to extract from the Slack message? Okay, so let me click on that. I'm going to just name this URL because that's what we want to extract. And the AI is going to take that as context. What is the type, right? We have text, number, or Boolean. We're going to do text. And then what is the description, right? So we need to give the AI a little bit of guidance here. And I have it on my clipboard. So I'm going to say the URL and the URL only. And then I'm going to give it an example of a URL, right? We don't want any of that other information from Slack as an output. We just want the URL. And you can choose your model over here. You can bring your own keys to Gumloop, which makes it really cheap because you can use your own API. So this one looks good. We're taking the Slack message. We are putting it through this extract data node. And then we're asking it to pull out the URL and the URL only. So let me save that. And we can test this one as well by just rerunning. Now what should happen is that Slack message should flow to the extract data node. And we can see over here, key item URL extracted successfully. And now we have just the URL, which is exactly what we wanted. All right, now we want to add our first kind of AI agent here, which is an AI web research node. So in my node library in Gumloop, I'm going to drag AI web research right onto my canvas like that. And what this is going to do is research the web based on our prompt, right? Our research prompt. So in order to get an input and an output for this node, this works differently than all of the other nodes, is you need to give it a prompt first and then click generate. Okay, so what are we instructing the AI research node to do? So I'm saying research the content of the article and create a summary of the article. Okay, so that's what I want it to do. And I'm going to click generate input and output. And it's going to take a second and it's going to give us the inputs and the outputs, right? So it's asking for the title here and the URL, which we don't really need. We don't need the title. So what I can do is come back and say, I can reprompt this, right? Because we really only need one input. So research the content of the article and create a summary of the article. I'm going to say output the summary only. The only input you need is the URL. So I'm going to regenerate. It's not a big deal because I could just ignore that article title input if I wanted to, but I'd prefer to make this as clean as possible. So there you can see it did that. All right, so now it only is asking for the article URL. And I could actually, now that I think about it, I could give it from the extract data node. In the original build, I just did it from the Slack message itself, and it was intelligent enough to pull out the URL. But if I want this to be cleaner, I'm actually going to grab it. I'm going to do it a little bit differently in this live build. I'm going to grab it from the extract data node. Okay, so that's the input is the URL. And what we want to do here is, this is duplicative. I'm going to delete the, I think it's because I prompted it the first time and then I prompted it again. So it's going to say, research the content of the article at the provided URL and create a summary of the article. And then what it's asking for is the article URL. And then I'm going to put that little placeholder, and it already did it for me. It dragged it up there. So it's saying, research the article, and here's the article URL. And again, we can come in here and test, and I've just kind of cleaned this up a little bit. So we're going from the Slack message to extract the URL, to send the URL to the web research agent. And I'm going to run this, and we'll see. It might take a second to have the web research agent go and find the article and read the article and create the summary. So you can see it's already read the Slack message. It's already pulled in just the URL from the Slack message. And now the web research agent is going to take a second. So let's just wait for that to run. All right, you can see that took less than 90 seconds for the web research agent to run. And I can click into the all inputs and outputs. So the input was that URL, so that from the extract data. Now, as for the outputs, the web research node will always output a reasoning field and a citations field, no matter what. We don't need to include that, but it will always have that as the output. What we're looking for is this article summary. So you can see OpenAI has introduced new tools to enhance the development of agents, such as the responses API, which integrates yada, yada, yada. So it actually did read this article. That's what this article is about. OpenAI announcement about their agents. So it successfully read and summarized the article. And now we can use that summary, number one, to push it to Airtable as a field, but then also we're going to use the summary as context to create all of these different social media posts. All right, so what I want to do next is create the prompt for the AI image generator node. So Gumloop has a node where it will create the image for you, but I want the prompt to be kind of auto-generated itself. So I need to do that step first. So I'm going to come into my node library. I'm going to use an Ask AI node, and I'm going to put it kind of down here. So again, this is going to act as a prompt generator. So what I want to do first is feed it the context of the article itself, because every prompt and every image is going to be based on the specific article. So I want to give the context, right? So I can take this article summary, just drag it over to context. All right. So now this AI has the context of the article. Now I want to give this a prompt in order to create a prompt. Okay. So I've got this on my clipboard. I'm just saying generate a prompt to create, and I might call it an AI image based on the attached context, which is above. The image should visually capture the themes and elements of the article, include symbols and yada, yada, yada. You can change this however you want. And again, you can use whatever model you want. I like 3.7 from Claude, and save this. And I can run this again to see if this will generate the response. So let me just hit run. This is going to run all over. So I'll end up pausing this, and then we'll come back once it's complete. All right, so that's already done. And so you can see the flow ran. And now this is this Ask AI, which, by the way, I should rename this just to be more clear. Image prompt. And now if I go into input and output, here is the AI image generation prompt. So now we can pass this node output to the image generator node itself. It'll make sense when I do it in a second, but we can see this is correctly generating the prompt based on the article, right? It's not just random, but this is actually the article about the API from OpenAI. All right, so what we need to do next is add that image generator node, which is under the using AI. I'm going to just go to all of them. And here we go. It's really hard to see. Let me zoom in here. So this generate high quality image node, I'm going to select that. It's going to bring it on my canvas. I'm just going to put this below my prompt. So you can see what we're doing here is this generate high quality image node needs a prompt to create the image. Well, we're going to have AI create this prompt for us, which we just did based on the article. So I'm going to drag that into the prompt field or the prompt node input. And you can see our prompt field has been auto-filled. And this is where you can select the different sizes. So if you want to go crazy and do different sizes for each social media platform, you can create 3 different image nodes here. For this purpose, I'm just going to do the square, and you can play with the style, vivid or natural, and then quality. I'm going to stick with HD, but you can play around with these settings. But now what we'll have is the prompt for the image flowing into our image node. So when I save and then run again, we can see that the image prompt, which is done, has sent its output to the generate high quality image node. And then this is going to take a second to create the image based on the prompt that's based on the summary of the article. All right, so we can see, I don't know if I can open this up from here, but let's see. Here, I've got an image URL. Let me try this. Works. All right, there's our AI image. And you can see, I mean, let's be honest, DALL-E is not as good as Midjourney or Ideogram, especially with text. but it's mentioning the responses API right in the image. So we know that it's correctly taking the context from the article. It's using the AI prompt to create the image. So now our images are pretty much done, and we can focus on writing the text parts for the social media. So let me just close this run and let's start on LinkedIn. So again, we're using the summary of the article to help inform our LinkedIn writer. So for this, we're going to use an Ask AI node. So let me drag this down here and rename this so we can keep track of which one is which. So this is LinkedIn writer. All right, so we need 2 bits of information for this Ask AI node. So we're basically just prompting ChatGPT or whatever model we use. So the first is the prompt, and the second is the context. So we know for the context, we want the summary of the article, right? What is this article actually about? So I'm going to drag article summary over to context, and you can see the context field now is going to be grayed and crossed out. Now, this is where you need to come up with a really good prompt for LinkedIn. I'm just going to use kind of a standard prompt here, but to get the best possible output for your system inside of LinkedIn, meaning for this quality to be where you want it to be, it comes from this part of the flow, this prompt right here. Now, this is just probably not the best LinkedIn prompt, but I'm going to just use it as an example. So act as a LinkedIn content expert in this industry. You are provided with a summary of the article. Your task is to generate an engaging LinkedIn post that yada, 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 yada. Write in plain English, write like a human. Again, this is where you're going to want to really take the time to create this prompt so you get the best output possible. This is where the output will be affected the most for all of our LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. But again, I'm just going to use that as a prompt. Context we already have filled in, and this is where you can choose your model. Sonnet is probably the best writer. And now we have got our LinkedIn. Now, instead of running this again and again and again, what I'm going to do is just clone this because we need one for Twitter. We need one for Instagram. So let me set those up and then I'll test it again. But we can easily duplicate this. So I'm going to duplicate, then I'm going to rename this. So let's do Twitter next. All right, so we've got Twitter, and then let me grab a separate prompt for Twitter. All right, so I'm going to remove this prompt. I'm going to paste in a slightly different one. I mean, it's not that much better, but again, this is where you want to optimize your prompt. So I've got my prompt, but we need the context, which again is from the article summary. So that's going to go right there. Sonnet is already selected as the model. Let me just move my image one over a little bit because we need to make room next for Instagram. So let me just duplicate the Twitter one, drag this over here, rename this to Instagram writer. All right, so we need the context from the article summary, and then let me just grab the prompt. All right, so let me remove the Twitter prompt, put in the Instagram prompt, which is, again, these are all pretty much similar. So what we have set up now is the actual writer for each of the platforms. And we've got our image prompt as well over here, which is already setting up our image generation. So this is looking pretty good. Let me save this here and then I can run it. And actually the LinkedIn writer appears to be done. Let me see. All right, here's our LinkedIn post. Breaking news in the AI world. OpenAI just released a suite of powerful tools. All right, so we know the LinkedIn one is working correctly. It looks like Twitter worked as well. Again, I can go to the output here. Here's our Twitter post. And it looks like this whole thing worked correctly. And here is our Instagram post as well. So here's the Instagram draft. So the test worked. The flow is working. Let me save that again, and we are almost done. So the last node that we need, of course, is Airtable, right? We want to write all of this output into Airtable. So I'm going to search for an Airtable node, and we want the writer here because we're going to be writing new entries or new rows. So let's drag that onto the canvas. And if you don't have your Airtable selected yet, if you don't have your Airtable connected yet, you're going to want to do that through Gumloop. It takes just 2 seconds. And what we want to do here is find the base that we're looking for. So I'm going to select my SM system YouTube. Let me refresh here on the table, even though there's only one table. And then actually what I find helpful is with the columns is just kind of Xing out all of the ones here, and then that'll kind of clear it out for you. All right, so what we have is our Airtable writer. So we've got our base table, the columns all look good. I think we've got all of them, and we want to add a single row, I believe. Yes, because we don't want a list here. So for writer mode, we're adding just a single row for each time. So make sure you make that change. And now all we need to do is map the outputs to the inputs. So for the URL, we're going to grab that from our extract data node right onto there. Okay, article summary came from this AI web research, which we used in almost every other node right there. Our LinkedIn post is going to be the output of our LinkedIn writer. And then the Twitter and Instagram are going to be the same, like that. And then the image, we want the URL of the output from this node. All right, so all of our nodes are correctly configured, and we've got Airtable set up with all of the inputs. All right, so here's the plan. Our Gumloop flow looks pretty good. Our Airtable database is blank. I'm going to use a new article. So this was on the Manus AI agent from Live Science. So I'm going to grab this, and what I'm going to do is go into Slack. I'm going to go into that channel. I'm going to just fire off this link. All right, so it's in Slack right now. Now, in order to see this live, what you want to do is go to your Gumloop/history, and it's going to show you your run history. So you can see SM system YouTube. This is what's going on right now. So I can click down here and then click view run. So this enables you to see the live run when it's triggered outside of Gumloop, right? When it's not a manual trigger. So this is going on live right now. Again, our Airtable is still blank, which makes sense. Slack message, we can see all of the inputs, all of the outputs. So here we can see the Live Science article right there. It's extracting the data. Let's see if it got the URL. All right, it got the URL, which is great. Again, this is kind of live here. This is the AI web research. So did it create a summary? It did. So this is the summary of the Manus article. And now it's going to feed it to LinkedIn. It's going to the image prompt. So let's see our LinkedIn post. Yep, here's the dawn of true AI autonomy. Meet Manus. All right, we have our LinkedIn post. This is the image prompt itself. So create an image. All right, so it's taking the context. It's working great so far. This is the image, which is going to output a link. I'm not going to open that this second. We'll see it below. It's going to create the Twitter post. Here we go. Breaking news. Again, you're going to work on your prompts to get better output. Instagram. Here's the image, and it's telling us it's in Airtable. If we go back, and there it is. I didn't delete those first 3 rows, but here is our URL over here. Let me just put these as kind of extra tall. All right, so here is our article summary. All right, so the article discusses Manus, an AI agent developed by the Chinese startup. It's claimed to be the first general AI agent, yada, yada, yada. So that was our summary agent, which did a great job. Here is our LinkedIn post. All right, pretty good. It's using the first person here. The Twitter post was a little short. You know, we could have tweaked the prompt to ask for a Twitter thread, but here is the output for Twitter. Here is the output for Instagram, okay? And then let's see if I can open this up. And there is our AI-generated image for Manus, all right? Not bad for Dolly. So all of that executed perfectly well. It all started with a simple Slack message. I just sent a link into Slack, and our automation went out, extracted the data, searched the web to summarize the article, fed that into each of our kind of platform-specific writers, generated a prompt for the image, created the image, and then sent all of that output automatically back into Airtable. So this is kind of a basic setup, but you can see where we can go with this. We can tweak the prompts and improve the prompts to get better output. We can send this to a Google Doc if we want instead of Airtable. We can trigger this with an email instead of Slack. There's a ton of different configurations, but at the base level, this is a pretty good system.